What's up there, YouTube friends? Chetter here, back with another video. First off, I hope you're doing well. I hope you have a good day and that everything is going well for you. I hope you had a good Christmas or holiday season. I hope everyone was safe. Things can be crazy during these times, and yeah, I just hope you had a good Christmas and holiday season. And I hope things are going well for you. Thank you for joining me for this video. This is a video that should be called my favorite movie of 2024. I was planning on making a top 5 or 10 list of this year. Earlier when I was starting movie reviews, I was more committed to seeing movies in the theater and doing reviews, but it's hard for me to maintain, in part because of movie theater prices and then just also because of schedule. It's something that I do sort of consider doing, going to the theater and then posting new reviews of new movies so that I can, because I like to be a film recommender. That's what I try to be when I go into watching movies. As a movie fan, I try to pay attention to what movies are good for what purposes. So if someone's in the mood for a good comedy, I can say, hey, here's a good list of comedies. The comedy fans really like this one. I also really like this one. If it's a Christmas movie and you want a funny Christmas movie, I've got ideas for that. I would recommend Elf. That's one of my favorite. That's probably my favorite Christmas movie. Elf. And so anyway, I'm just talking that I like to be a film recommender, and going into 2025, I'm still in debate if I want to go see, fresh new movies and post new reviews of that. So I may try to challenge myself to go do that and post a new movie review, every week, because that would be pretty cool if there was a new movie every week that I could say, as a thumbs up or a thumbs down or something. So, we'll see about that. But for this video, this is a favorite movie of 2024. I didn't see enough movies this year, basically. I saw a good handful, but if I do a top 5 list, it's going to be more or less the movies that I saw. And because I probably saw no more than 5 or 7 movies in the theater, and that's even the ones that I would put in the top 5 just out of what I saw, I wouldn't want to put in top 5. Like, I technically saw Sonic 3 this year, so it would probably be somewhere in my top 10 of 2024. But, realistically, should it be in there? Probably not. Also, before I go into this, I will try to keep them spoiler free. I'm just going to talk generally about the movies because I'd prefer you to see these movies. I'm recommending these movies. I'm not going to be spoiling them, but I will just talk generally about them. If I need to go into spoilers, I'll try to put a spoiler discussion, but just keep that in mind that I'm just going to talk generally and to get you to see the movies if you haven't. But you've had a few minutes to guess. I hope you thought of a good guess for the honorable mention. We're going to start with number 2 here. Do you want to take one more minute to guess? Time's up. Time is up. I'm going to go into honorable mention right now, and that movie is Longlegs. I'm going to put the picture up here so you can see it. Longlegs is my second favorite movie of the year. It's close to number 1 because it is really good. If I had to describe this movie to someone who hasn't seen it, I would call it a crime horror movie. The plot is basically a crime is happening, and these detectives have to solve this crime, and there is some scary stuff that happens along the way, and it becomes more of a horror movie as it goes along, but it's also not truly, I want to say, a true horror movie where it doesn't go into jump scares, it doesn't go into super graphic gore. It's not a movie like Terrifier, so I don't know how much a horror fan would love this movie. I think that they would like this because this is a slow, artsy, like well shot, well crafted movie, and it's kind of a slow burn. It's you get information slowly as it goes along, and it does end up to building up to a really cool, just a cool finish. It's one of those movies where it just gets progressively better as it goes along. And when the first time I saw it, I was like, hey, that's a really good movie. I think that's but I kind of wanted a little more, and I gave it a B plus. I've seen it again. I think it's a solid A. It for sure. I was just being a little too hard on the movie. Sometimes when I go into a movie, I think it's my expectations, right? I think it's probably me thinking that the movie's trying to do A, and really the movie's doing B, and I have a false, like an unwarranted expectation of the movie. So that's why going through a movie a second time, this may happen to you too, going through a movie a second time where you better understand what the movie's trying to do. It's kind of like when you understand what it is trying to do. Okay, the goal and the point that the goal it's trying to reach, the point it's trying to make. And so you are willing to hear it out more, as long as you have a good, listening, ear, if you're that kind of individual. In this movie, I think just gets better. When you watch it again, it gets better as it goes along. It's just a super, super good movie. So I think it's the other part why I really like this movie. I think because it doesn't go enough into the horror section, I think you're going to pull in more crime movie fans too, or crime fans, because that's an audience there that I think can be serviced but doesn't in a way. And what I'm talking about when I say crime horror, there's some shows like this called, one show that comes to mind is called Criminal Minds. This was popular back in the late 2000s and the 2010s. I don't think it's still going. I'm pretty sure it's canceled. But Criminal Minds was a detective show where these detectives hunted, these criminals, and these criminals that they hunted were some of the most grotesque, horrifying like criminals, where they would do some just like science fiction movie torturous, just crazy shit. And it was unreal that it was even in a TV show sometimes. One of the actor's name is Mandy Patinkin. I believe he was only in season 1 because he quit the show because he didn't know it was going to be so horrific. And it was so funny to read that too, where it's like he signed in because he thought it was going to be a detective, cop show, and then it ended up being this every episode just trying to basically scare the audience. So what I'm trying to blabber about is that I think there's a section, an audience, or maybe a sub-genre of movies where you have crime. You take it's the crime is what's happening, and you present it in a horror way. There's horrific things happening, and I think there's room for more movies like that, and I'm going to try to see if there is some, because, man, I love Long Legs. Long Legs was just a really cool movie. If you haven't seen it, it's a good detective movie. It's a good... there's so many cool shots in this movie, too. If you're a fan, if you're kind of a film nerd and you like seeing some artsy shots, there's some wicked cool shots in this movie that I love and I want to talk about, but I'm going to save it for your experience. But towards the end of the movie, there's, one of my favorite shots. I want to talk about it so bad. Maybe I'll go into a spoiler section, at the end of this. But for now, no spoilers. Don't worry. Just understand that I give Long Legs an A. It's not an A plus. But it's kind of close to that. I don't super love the movie, but I do love it, right? And so what would I want more of the movie? What would make it an S tier without spoilers? In short, for me, I wanted a little bit more scares or horror. I felt slightly teased on that sense, where it does show you scary things, right? You do see horror images and scenes, but it never, I guess I never fully got as scared as I thought that the movie could have taken me. I really thought that the movie, and even on the second watch too, it feels like the movie will kind of cross a line, and it never does. And it's a line that you expected and almost want it to cross. And this is just my, experience, but it feels like something really sinister is going to happen in this movie, and and you don't kind of get that. There's some sinister shit, okay? So I'm not trying to say that it's not a walk in the park, right? But it's just, I wanted more scares, and that would have made it an S if it was just a little bit more scarier. That's what would have done it for me. Specifically, if this I feel is not spoiler either. When you hear the title Longlegs is the name of the suspected killer. That's like the Zodiac is the name of the Zodiac killer. Longlegs is the name of this killer, and I felt Longlegs should have been scarier. That's the simplest way I can put it. When Longlegs comes into shine, he's still entertaining, but I almost felt robbed of a new Freddy Krueger in a sense. You know, this was a chance to have something really scary happen with this character, and I just didn't get it. So again, that might just be my expectations, but that as a consumer, you know, when I watched this movie, that's something I feel like I didn't get out of the movie that would have made me like it more. That's all. It would have made me like it more, but I still love the movie. It's just one small part. The whole movie is a great experience. If you haven't seen Longlegs, high recommend for me. Go watch Longlegs. I want to buy it. I do want to own this movie. I should buy it. I should go own it, and you know, maybe I'll show it off and make a video. I bought Longlegs, because it's a great movie, man. And it's only my number 2. It's only my honorable mention. But like I said, it would be number 1 if it wasn't for number 1, because Longlegs, you know, was great. Longlegs is a bit more fresh because I just watched this one recently as well. So I rewatched it, I should say. So it's a bit more fresh in my head than what I would say is my favorite movie of this year. But I'm pretty confident in saying my favorite movie of this year, which I will move into now. We will move past Longlegs. We'll go into movie number 1. What is the grand champion of this year? My favorite movie. You might be able to guess it, maybe not, but it is Dune 2 from the director Denis Villeneuve. Oh, I should also mention too, before completely moving on from Longlegs. Longlegs is directed by Oz Perkins, who I made a tier list for also. So thank you, Oz Perkins, for Longlegs. Oz Perkins directed Longlegs. Go check out his movies and go check out Longlegs. But Denis Villeneuve directed my favorite movie of the year, Dune 2. Dune 2 I thought was great. I liked it more than I thought I would too. There's still parts of me that I feel like parts that people love aren't the parts that I love, but the parts that I kind of nerd out about, I don't see super talked about. And for example of that, if you know, Dune 2 is a movie that if you haven't seen, you need to see Dune 1 first, because it's like reading the second half of a book before reading the first half. The Dune movies, the new Dune movies, Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2, is a book that is split in half, right? Dune is a very popular and classic science fiction novel. It's known for being incredibly lore-filled, lore-dense, and it's been known to be hard to adapt into movies too, just because of how much you have to show and tell. It seems like the movies would take forever. And Denis Villeneuve, he is such a masterful director. He knows how to, I hope I'm saying his name right, he knows how to show everything in the best possible way, to where you get the exact feeling and effect that you need to for the story to make its most emotional sense as it goes along. And Dune 2 is great, and I love Denis Villeneuve's filmmaking. Basically, it's just anytime he makes a movie, it's probably my favorite of that year. And just Dune 2 is great. Something I mentioned too is that some parts that are people's favorites are not my favorite. One example of that would be the villain Feyd-Rautha. I think his name is Feyd-Rautha. It might be Feyd-Rautha. But Feyd, I thought he was cool and good, but I also just feel like I've seen his style of villain before, so I just kind of wasn't creeped out by him. Like when he was doing his, he tries to do some weird creepy things, like he licks a knife at one part, right? And it's just, I mean, it's creepy, you know, but it wasn't, the Harkonnens too, his race, it's hard to talk about Dune 2 if you haven't seen Dune 1 or don't know anything about it. So if you haven't seen Dune 2, you have to see Dune 1. Dune 1 is very good. Dune 2 is very good. I like them both pretty much the same. You know, they're both A to A plus. And so I high recommend Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2. They're great. Go watch them. But you know, I'm going to talk about this not in spoilers, but I have to assume that you know a little bit to even talk about this movie. But Fade is a villain in this movie. He's just kind of, I want to say he's Joker-esque. You know, he's kind of a crazy, psychotic, bad character, right? Where he is unpredictable. You don't know what he's going to do. He is just kind of crazy. And he's just a crazy villain, basically. And I just feel like I've seen his type before. Where he really shined at that I did like, though, a really cool scene was the scene where he duels with Paul at the very end. Fade is completely worth it for that. When I first saw Fade, I just thought he was kind of a typical kind of cliche villain. Honestly, I really thought that. But it ends up making really good use of him, too. It becomes atypical, where he has the duel with Paul and Paul Atreides, who is the main hero of the movie. And basically what I'm talking about is Fade is the villain of this movie. It builds up to a showdown with Paul that I won't talk about, but it's a really cool scene that is worth it. So I thought that at first the villain seemed cliched to me, and then he becomes not cliched, and Denis knows how to make him, just show him in the right way. He shows everything. This director is so good. He just shows everything in the best way possible. And overall, I liked Fade, but my favorite parts were not his crazy parts. I remember just people were talking about how crazy Fade Rutha was, and I didn't really. That wasn't the impressive part of Dune, for me. Although I will give credit to Austin. I think his name's Austin Butler, the actor that played Fade, because I didn't even recognize it was Austin Butler at first. I knew Austin Butler was in the movie, but I didn't. When I started watching the credits, and I was like, oh wait, Fade is Austin Butler. That's crazy, because if you see an interview of Austin Butler, maybe I'll show a picture of him here. He just kind of looks how would I say? He looks like a handsome dude, and then Fade Rutha looks kind of ugly and creepy, so and they act kind of. What I'm saying is Austin did a good job of transforming himself, because he didn't seem at all like Fade Rutha. I was pretty surprised. So props to Austin. He was a good actor for sure in this movie, and really everyone does a good job. Even I know Timothy Chalamet has been seen in a lot of movies and gets a lot of talk, but I like him as Paul Atreides. I feel like the role that I'm going to always see Timothy Chalamet as Paul Atreides. It can even be hard to find the next thing to talk about, because there's so much to talk about in the Dune movies. This director, Denis Villeneuve, just knows how to show and how to immerse you into the worlds and make the worlds feel so real in a way. And I guess I want to talk about some of my favorite parts, but it does kind of get into spoilery, so I won't talk about details. I'll just say that what I do like about the movie is that it shows its metaphysics and its ideas of morality really, really well. And if you haven't seen the Dune movies, how I've read the description of the Dune movies that makes sense to me, is that the Dune movie, the story of Dune is a warning of the ultimate hero character, almost like it's a warning of like a Jesus type figure, where you have this powerful hero who can know all, see all, basically, save the world. The Dune plot works as a warning of those characters, because those characters can bring down the world. They work as a crutch, and that's the point of the Dune movies. And between Dune 1 and Dune 2, you see basically the rise of this character named Paul Atreides, and he's ultimately, you know, a good guy, but you just see him grow more and more power, and you see signs of the power, you know, corrupting, and you're sympathetic to his struggle, and everything makes logical sense why his ascension of power. But at the same time, you get this kind of in the second one too, for me, you get these uneasy feelings with him where you're watching the hero character get stronger, but then you're also like, I'm not sure if I want him to get stronger. If you've seen Dragon Ball Z, I'm trying to think of a different way to describe this, but if you've seen Dragon Ball Z, you know, imagine Goku get more powerful, but then get kind of, you know, scarier, almost like Vegeta, you know, more sadistic, and then you're not sure if you want him to be, you know, Super Saiyan 3 or 4 because he's getting a little crazy, you know. That's kind of how Paul is, you know. What's another nerd comparison I can make? Harry Potter, right? What if Harry Potter, if he was getting more spells and more, you know, just more magic knowledge, what if he became taunted by the dark magic like Voldemort, and Harry started doing some crazy shit, you know, and he became like crackhead Harry, and he's like freaking out, you know, and his friends have to stomp him in the seventh one. You know, what I mean is that that doesn't typically happen, right? And the Dune movies, that is the story, where you're not watching Paul Atreides isn't a bad character, but you're watching this hero and rise to power, but you're also, it becomes complicated. That's what I like. It becomes complicated. It doesn't just say, oh, he's a good guy, oh, he's a bad guy. It shows it in this very, very morally gray, which is perfectly accurate to being like real. It makes it so it's science fiction, but it's real. You know, that's how real politics and stuff is. And so it's anyway, it's just, this is a cool movie. I highly recommend Dune 2. It's a cool, I would say it's a dark rise of a hero. That's how I would sell Dune 1 and 2. It's a dark hero's tale in a way. And there's so many cool moments, and there's some funny moments in Dune 2. It's yeah, I can kind of ramble on forever, but I know I'll accidentally slip in, you know, some spoilers there, but basically, I just want to say Dune 2 is my number one favorite movie of the year. You do have to see Dune 1 really to appreciate Dune 2, and it's worth watching them together, you know, as one movie, or, you know, Dune 1 on Saturday, Dune 2 on Sunday. There's a few ways you can split that up, but if you haven't seen it, go see Dune 1 and 2. Dune 2 is my number one favorite movie of the year, with an, you know, honorable mention to Long Legs. Long Legs is like close second. It's really close, because Dune 2 is not that much better than Long Legs. Dune 2 just didn't leave me wanting more, and Long Legs left me wanting a little more. If that's basically it. But I love both those movies. Those are my favorite movies of the year. So if you have any comments, if you love those movies, you know, let me know below. I appreciate any input, or any trolls too. Trolls can be funny. If you enjoy listening to me, you know, ramble, I appreciate like and subscribe too. But I appreciate you for listening to me, and that is all. I hope you have a great day, and we're approaching the new year, so I hope you have a good rest of 2024. But thank you so much for your time. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye.